On deck, we have some green screen videos for goofs and gaffs. We have some more serious content, along with some older stuff as well. Reviews of Modern Warfare 2, released a few years ago, to World at War Vendetta, a mission in-depth breakdown. And a couple other newer videos like Subliminal and our 2 big parter World of Tanks videos that are some of our highest viewed videos on the channel. Anyways guys, sit back, relax, get a snack, and enjoy some of the content here, handpicked from me to you.
The year is 2006. In a Ubisoft meeting, they're talking about their next Prince of Persia game. And some guy was like, hey, why don't we just make it Assassin talk to the prince or something like that? I don't know, didn't watch the movie. And all of a sudden, Assassin's Creed was built, was created out of it. What's up, my kumquats? It is me, Hot Dog, and today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed. The bumpy road to glory, the glorious road to Valhalla. Assassin's Creed 1 comes out in 2007. Steve Jobs is dancing around in his awesome pants, and he's introducing the iPhone 1, and all of us are getting introduced to Assassin's Creed 1. Assassin's Creed 1 takes place in a really cool place called Italy. Don't know if you've heard of it. Got the Romans killing people, shit like that. You play as a legendary assassin named Altair. Okay, pretty badass, huh? And in the real world, like much later in the present day, you're playing as Miles, a really boring ass character. Altair is what we focus on. Altair is this badass assassin in the Assassin's Creed with a exposition of Templars versus Assassins. Good versus evil. And you're rooting for good, obviously, because you're playing as Assassin. Come on now, it's basic knowledge. Assassin's Creed 1 had the biggest scale for a game for its time. It had NPCs highly active everywhere around the map. The climbing was seamlessly easy as fuck. The game was somewhat boring in gameplay, but it had a very cool concept. The melee genre was kind of dying at the time, and this revitalized it. Furthermore, it added a lot of amazing characters that would be focused on in later games. Altair was number 1. He was a little boring, didn't really have many characteristics, he just kind of wanted to kill everyone, but that's fine. It was a really good first game, it was a good pilot game, everyone enjoyed it.
You should find an outlet.
I have plenty of outlets.
I meant besides vaginas.
Mother.
This led to Assassin's Creed 2. With Ezio Auditore, he is the fan favorite character in all of the Assassin's Creed games. If you think Ezio is not the best character, then you're fucking wrong. Ezio Auditore, just his name makes me feel like I'm seducing an e-girl on a Discord server. He is a badass. He leads the assassins in later games, and has 2 other sequels to Assassin's Creed 2, which is Brotherhood and Revelations. I personally like Revelations and Brotherhood, they're both pretty good. The second game was a lot more fun. There was a lot less tedium happening within the game, and RPG mechanics were being forged. The melee combat was amazing. The melee combat was a lot of counter acting, so you just had to have good reflexes. It was pretty basic. They did add a lot of things into the newer games, like in Brotherhood they added more interesting characters. Ezio was one of them. All the assassins are pretty well written. You also have people like Da Vinci you run into, which is really cool for, you know, being in a historically accurate time period. Then you go to Assassin's Creed 3, okay? This thing put ambition on its head, okay? And before I get to Assassin's Creed 3, I want to quickly preface that I'm not going to be talking about older games or regressive games. So first of all, we have a lot of mobile games on the PlayStation Vita, the PSP, the mobile phone, the toaster oven, you name it, there's a game for it. There's even Altair's Chronicles on the DS. If you haven't played that, you're not a true fan. I mean, oh my god, could you imagine? Assassin's Creed 3. Hella ambitious, okay? They added sailing into the game. They added muskets into the game. They added wood as playable characters in the game. Connor is a pile of bricks in the corner who you could not tell the difference if he was speaking. But the environment was amazing. The graphics were top notch. Hold out to today. They did add a lot of different side missions and a lot of different side fun activities to do. More customization than ever before. A lot more recruitment opportunities. The multiplayer was really good. Just a lot of things were going right for Assassin's Creed 3. I'll be right back. I gotta show you something. Oh. Look at this shit. I have one of these. I was so into the game. I had a Halloween costume. My mom, my rockin' ass mom, made me a Halloween costume and I had this with it. I was so excited to play the game, and I got it, and the first 5 hours of the game was nothing but boring. I also got Reagan. Isn't that pretty cool? And then they came out with Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Black Flag throws everything out the window and creates even more ambition. They put it all on the back of the sailing mechanic, and they did a phenomenal job doing it. The islands were great. They're super pretty. The story wasn't really focused on, but it's okay because, you know, Ubisoft's always going to fuck up somewhere. They're bound to do it. But the character of Connor actually kind of comes into his own there, and the characters are just great. And the combat system, it was just a fun game to play overall. Next, we have probably the worst Assassin's Creed game in all the Assassin's Creed games, Assassin's Creed Unity. Some people, like Trashman on the channel, really likes this game. He thinks it's his favorite Assassin's Creed game, mostly because it was the only one he played. But, oh my god. The amount of bugs in that game was fucking crazy. Not only were the graphics intensive, Assassin's Creed Unity was for the new generation of consoles, and for doing such, was trying to push the limits, which led to a lot of bugs. Furthermore, they were using an experimental new engine for it because they were able to use all this new technology with the new generation, which led to a clusterfuck, an absolute clusterfuck. It was impressive that the streets and all of France were really beautiful and set during the French Revolution, which is an awesome time period. Again, they did a phenomenal job with the environment, but the game wasn't that fun. This led to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This kind of revitalized the series in the fact that it fixed all the issues. It was a seamlessly easy game to play. However, it was somewhat forgettable, as I said.
And for that reason amount,
I'm not going to invest, and we're going to close our doors and add in a new type of game. In 2017, Assassin's Creed released Assassin's Creed Origins. Set in Egypt, you are playing as an assassin who has probably the worst backstory of all time, and we've had some pretty bad backstories. Creates a new combat system, adds a lot more customization with your characters. You can no longer one-shot assassinate like in other games, and it was more of an RPG than it ever had been before. It was absolutely stunning visually, and the score was amazing. The voice actors were amazing. A lot of things were going right for Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Puts gorgeous is a bit of an understatement. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is probably the best visually stunning game I've ever played. It is so beautiful. It's set in Greece during the Peloponnesian War, which is by far one of the best time periods for history, in my opinion. It's tyranny versus democracy, which is one of the most interesting power struggles to date. Assassin's Creed Odyssey did everything Origins did, but better. And it also included player choice. Player choice is the most interesting part, in my opinion, of the game. And it added a lot more storytelling that we weren't able to see before. Before it was a narrative directly given to us, and now we could have our own perspectives and our own choices. Choices actually do matter in this game. You have to make specific choices at certain times in the campaign to make sure you have people survive or die. It's very interesting. I love the game for that very reason. Overall, Odyssey was my favorite Assassin's Creed game. There were a couple downfalls, obviously. As the most recent game, it had a really big grindfest issue. Exploration was not encouraged but needed in order to play the game, and game's engine was just so weird. Like I said in my Ubisoft video, I was like at Skyland or something, jumping around left and right, but that isn't every game. Look at that Origins boat. You see that thing? That thing's not, it's supposed to be in the water, but it's not. But that leads me to Valhalla. Valhalla is coming out this year. They're going to have sailing. They're going to have these large army battles that they had in Odyssey, but they may have even a bigger scale. This may actually mean something, because in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, if you weren't aware, it was Spartan versus Athenians. And basically, these battles arose when the region could be overtaken by one army or the other, and you picked which side and you got paid for it. This is a really interesting mechanic, but it didn't really mean that much whether you won or lost them unless you got all the regions, which didn't happen unless you finished the campaign. So in that regard, it was okay. Now, they may actually have a lot more factions this time, which will be really interesting for battles, seeing who can fight for, or maybe you should fight for yourself or for your tribe. Whatever it is, it's going to be really cool. It's during the Anglo-Saxon period, what to expect. We're going to see a lot more naval battles. We're going to see a lot more ground battles. Hopefully we get to see a more interesting backstory. Maybe it's got something to do with religion this time with the cultists instead of just because they're power hungry. I don't know. I'm really excited for this game. And the weapons are going to be badass. The kill shots are going to be badass. And I hope they're going to elaborate on the skills tree maybe a little bit more. Maybe make it a little more realistic. And maybe not as much of a grind fest. Overall, this game is going to be great. I already know it's going to be great, and I'm excited to see what you guys think of. I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. Overall, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay cool. That's a threat and a promise.
Vibe Gaming is sponsored by no one, but a like and subscribe would be very appreciative so we can fill something here in the future. Anyways, into the next video. In the world of modern indie horror, there is a dangerous trap developers keep falling into: confusing graphical fidelity with actual game design. For years, Subliminal was marketed as the ultimate liminal space experience. Early demos and trailers promise an atmospheric, photorealistic dive into psychological dread of the backrooms, backed by a massive surge in viral anticipation. When the game finally dropped on Steam, it revealed a harsh reality. Beneath its stunning Unreal Engine presentation lies one of the most frustrating, poorly paced, and mechanically derivative horror experiences in recent memory. Today, we're dissecting Subliminal, the game I purchased and played, as well as played the alpha way back when, and we'll look at why the awful puzzle logic kills horror tension, how trial and error chases ruin immersion, and why beautiful graphics can never replace good level design. Now, this is not a hate piece. Let's give credit where it's due. Visually and audibly, Subliminal starts off looking like a masterpiece. Lighting engine is pristine, the tile reflections in the waterworks look photorealistic, and the spatial sound design creates immediate, oppressive tension. For the first 10 minutes, you think you're in for a modern classic. But horror relies on momentum. Psychological dread requires a delicate balance of pacing, building tension, delivering a threat, and forcing the player to adapt. The moment a player is forced to stop, stand in a quiet room, and spend 25 minutes wandering back and forth hunting for obscure interactables, that momentum doesn't just slow down, it completely dies. Subliminal mistakes friction for fear. When you can't figure out where to go because the game refused to give you basic environmental signposting, you aren't feeling scared. You're feeling annoyed. And annoyance is the absolute killer of horror. And I can give some personal experience here, specifically on some of the levels. I'm recording one right now, but I had a lot of issues with some of the puzzles. I'm not sure, my brain is very small. That is probably part of it. It's very smooth and very cute. However, I definitely think if you're going to have a puzzle horror game, that it needs to have some kind of tension in between while not making it too difficult. Oh, what? The core culprit behind Subliminal's failure is its puzzles. Instead of creating intuitive, diegetic puzzles that naturally fit in the environment, the game resorts to arbitrary escape room logic. You're forced to look at color-coded balloons, cross-reference numbers, and random shoe racks, or brute force random combination locks just to open a door. Even worse are the physics-based light puzzles. You're given light-grabbing mechanics that feel buggy and imprecise. Half the time spent on the puzzle isn't figuring out the answer, it's fighting the clunky physics of the box that won't align properly in the beam of light. They have made some changes to this, however I still think that the jury's out in regards to some of these box physics. When a player has to alt-tab out of a horror game to look up a walkthrough because the puzzle cues are practically invisible, your game design has failed. And I noticed that a lot on Reddit, reading some of the reviews for the game too on Steam. Good puzzle games like Portal teach you their language. Subliminal expects you to read the developer's mind. This brings us to Subliminal Structural Identity Crisis. It feels less like an original game and more like a Frankenstein monster of stitched together games from other popular titles. I'm not a hater of a game that wants to innovate on older titles or the ideas and concepts. I'm totally down for that. But this doesn't really feel cohesive. It didn't feel like someone had a huge identity of what they wanted to do. It takes the voice actor and psychological guidance style from Subliminal. It takes the power-grabbing hand mechanics, character audio boards, and factory aesthetic directly from Poppy Playtime, and it tries to wrap it all up in a structured meta-narrative of the Stanley Parable.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs.
Our mind can be a bit eccentric and imagine little scenarios that can get a tad dark. But these little intrusions are actually harmless and completely made up. Just like when you're at a crosswalk and have the sudden urge to step into oncoming traffic.
It is kind of just messing with all these different things, and it's not even really coming together. It's more like water and oil. Borrowing inspiration from great games isn't inherently bad. Like I said, I think it's a great idea if someone can improve upon a concept of someone else or bring in a new twist to it. But Subliminal fails to blend these ideas together. It wants to be a comedic, mind-bending puzzle game, an existential narrative, a backrooms walking simulator, and a mascot horror chase game all at once. By trying to be everything, it ends up excelling at nothing. I know it's corny to say, but it's really true. If bad puzzles don't break your immersion, the chase sequences will finish the job. The game frequently throws you into instant death sprint sequences where the path forward is obscured in pitch darkness. In one notorious final sequence, the object you need to interact with to survive, a red lever, is placed against a background illuminated by the exact same red light. This isn't scary, this is poor signposting. When a chase forces you to die 20 times just to memorize where an invisible lever is located, death ceases to have an emotional weight. The monster isn't terrifying anymore. It's more of an annoying obstacle that resets your timer. Now, I will say, in some areas, it very much excels. A lot of times when you're in the bouncy rooms or when you're being chased and there's a obvious area of light. But sometimes that's not the case. I would say near the end, there's a closet scene where it's really hard to see you need to crouch somewhere. And I think that was intended, but it was not very helpful for the player. I'm dead. I'm fucking dead. I couldn't find it. The light wasn't turning on. I don't have good vision. Subliminal stands as a crucial lesson for modern game development. In an era where anyone can buy high-end assets and run them through Unreal Engine 5, visual presentation is no longer enough. A game can look like a multi-million-dollar tech demo, but if the core loop consists of tedious pixel hunting, broken puzzles, and cheap trial and error chases, players will see right through it. Graphics will get people to buy your game, but game design is what makes them enjoy playing it. What ruins a horror game faster for you? Bad puzzles or clunky chase mechanics? Let me know in the comment section below, and hit the subscribe if you want to watch more game design breakdowns and long-form content like this. And again, thanks for watching. Some might say I'm too rough on this game here today. I do want to let everyone know it is passion. I do love the genre. I think the developers attempted to do something really big and really great, really special. It just kind of fell flat. I've seen a lot of gameplay for it, and I've played the whole game now. I can safely say that there's things that they're lacking. So without hating on it too much, I want to let everyone know this is not a pile-on Subliminal developers team, hater train. This is someone who genuinely cares about it, okay? Anyways, have a good rest of your day. Looking forward for some future content here. I got some funny goofs and gaffs coming up, as well as some more long-form content, so stay tuned and have a great rest of your day. Subliminal was one of our newest videos, so please go check it out and leave a like if you'd like to. Otherwise, thanks for watching it in this channel here today. Next, we're going to roll back to an older video, Atmosphere in Video Games. It's a short one. I hope you enjoy. I like to believe there are 3 things that carry a game in the industry. Number 1, the gameplay, or how the game handles with the player control. 2, the story and the characters in it, or what the game designers want to tell you through the game. And number 3, being the atmosphere of the game, or what surrounds the player. We're going to be focusing on number 3 today and breaking down what defines a good atmosphere. As stated in some of our previous videos in the channel, environments are essentially another character in the game. Full of life, or stoic and stale, to downright unsettling. Environments have a large role in game design. But the other important character is the score in games. Whether it be triumphant, dominating music, to a relaxing tavern sound, or just needle drops, a good score plants a seed in the minds of gamers on how to think or react. Similar to public speaking, if you laugh while talking about a subject, you are planting the idea of a comical event arising.
So in today's video, we're going to talk about the effect of atmospheres in video games. I also want to point out that I'm not personally ranking any of these games, and I would have a 30-hour video if I solely spoke on either the environments or the scores. So I'm simply going to be talking about the atmospheres as I've experienced them myself. I first thought of this idea when I was playing Halo 2 Anniversary Edition. Almost every level of the game has some kind of amazing song or triumphant score, and even if you don't like shooters, I highly recommend playing this game. The remastered version added a lot more songs, and the environment only got better. Unless you couldn't see what happened, which often happened in the hallways because the lighting was pretty bad, the game is phenomenal in its atmosphere. Anyways, Halo has always made sure the player was going on a triumphant journey with uplifting and sometimes unsettling scores that set the tempo for the level. Other studios like Bethesda have also cashed in on this great atmospheric presence, going all the way back to Elder Scrolls Arena, Oblivion, Morrowind, and even the buggy Skyrim had some of the best environments in gaming history. Going into battle with the dragon was action-packed, and talking in the local tavern showed signs of refuge and relaxation, allowing for talk and rest. Then there are some atmospheric specific games like Journey and the latest one I've played, Greece. Both have had smooth controls and told stories that were both abstract and intriguing. I was in my dorm in college and my roommate walks in and was wondering why I was playing this kind of game. I simply turned on my speakers and let my friend listen to the soundtrack as he watched me play on a gorgeous platform. The gameplay was smooth, but it did not make me buy the game. The atmosphere and its story were telling enough and intrigued me to buy it. Rockstar's GTA and Red Dead Redemption are ideal atmospheres as well, in which the player interacts and embraces the environment because of its freedom and open world format. Games like Bioshock and Amnesia also enrich the player with a great score and unsettling environment, but one in which the player is more surviving instead of giving the player an atmosphere to gallivant through. This one is directly built in the imagination of the player. Both of these games are great examples of telling the player when to be fearful and when to be curious. Finally, I want to talk about Limbo, another atmospheric platformer that tells a dark and deep story about an altered reality. It has a minimalistic background with sparse use of colors, and yet its atmosphere is amazing. The developers played it, and Double 11 have done a fantastic job showing horror and minimal jump scares, and left more up to the player's soul mind. Because all these games have done a fantastic job enriching the player with experiences that are scripted, yet feel quite organic. Because at the end of the day, the only difference between normal media and gaming is that with gaming, there's interaction, and that we aren't spoon-fed a story, but rather we are part of a story, and the atmosphere aids us in believing it so.
One of my personal favorites. Now up next, we have our World of Tanks two-parter. This is an in-depth look of the fall and possible rise again of World of Tanks.
World of Tanks. If you've ever heard of this game, you're most likely a boomer. In 2010, Wargaming released World of Tanks as a massive multiplayer vehicle destruction game, and it clearly takes inspiration from other demolition games of its time. It started out on PC and eventually made its way to mobile and console, and the goal of the game was simply to destroy the other team's tanks or capture a flag. It looks hella horrific graphically in this footage in its early days, but the game was well received by new PC players in the 2010s. It received numerous awards for the first year, and funnily enough, I saw it in a Game Informer magazine while taking a dump in 5th grade. The gameplay loop consisted of playing tanks in battle, getting XP and credits, which would then let you research further modules and vehicles, which you would then buy with these credits. There are a lot of other smaller aspects of the game like crew management, consumable specialization, but this raw gameplay loop is what the game was all about. And when the game came out, there were only two tech lines to go down, which is the Russian line and the German line. It's probably the two most famous tank lines. Later editions include the Americans, the French, the Polish, the Japanese, the Chinese, and many other nations. And today, World of Tanks still brings in over 100,000 players concurrently every day. But this is far from their peak in 2013 and 2014, racking in over 1 million concurrent players on their servers while hovering around 900,000 for around 2 or 3 years. So what went wrong? How was the player base diminished over the past half decade? Today we'll be taking a deeper dive into everything tanks in this game and what was it all about. And as always, leave a like and let me know if you guys like this kind of video. For starters, the gameplay is easy to pick up. As I mentioned earlier, you play as a tank, which are divided into 5 categories: light, medium, heavy tanks, tank destroyer, and SPG, which is artillery, self-propelled gun. Come on guys, get your homework done, okay? Every group has special characteristics that you could probably guess. Lights are fast and have good spotting mechanics. Mediums have decent mobility and can outmaneuver other tanks. Heavy tanks have good armor and are slow. Tank destroyers are usually mounted with efficient, damaging guns. And self-propelled guns, or SPGs, are playing a point-and-click adventure game. See what I mean? I don't even know how anyone has fun doing this. There are 10 tiers, with tier 1 being the worst, and 10 being the highest in the tech tree, and matchmaking would be determined on these tiers and vehicle types. There are a wide variety of maps to play on, and a very quote-unquote complex game modes like Standard Battle, where both teams had a capture flag, and Counter, which there was one neutral flag located relatively in the middle of the map, where both teams were supposed to capture it, and an Assault, which one team attacks and one team defends. The game ends with either all the tanks being destroyed on one team or the flag being captured. If your tank dies in battle, you cannot use it until the battle ends. And although sheer simplicity made it easy to pick up, it could get boring as well. As per most MMOs that are free to play, especially nowadays, there's a big catch when it comes to how free it really is. Unlike shitty Wizard 101, which didn't even allow you to go to any other areas outside the main city, yes, I hold grudges. Wilder Tanks will allow you to go down every line free to play. The only problem is the grind that you might have to endure while going down to get a certain tank. Trust me, the first time you buy a new tank in this game, you're like, great, I have finally found a new strong as shit tank. But a stock tank that you don't have any modules researched on is the worst thing you could ever encounter in a game. It has a pathetic gun, it's not upgraded engine, so it's slow, its radio sucks, the tracks make you turn slower, everything needs to be researched, which could be painful. But if you pay for a premium subscription, you get bonus XP and credits, and bonus uses on your matches that you win, which will just get you even more XP if you did well in them. And back in the day, you went from an average Detroit house to a Gucci garage. A tier 6 tank with a standard account takes roughly 100 games to progress to tier 7. Now gameplay has a factor, as in if you perform better you'll get more XP and credits, but I'm just taking this on average. Around 100 games is usually enough. With premium, this would take you down to roughly 50 games due to the 50% XP and credit boost from each game. Averaging each battle at 7 minutes, a standard account would take nearly 12 hours to complete a tank, and this will only get exponentially harder the further you go up the tree. Purchasing gold, the premium currency used with real money, can convert XP from previous maxed out tanks and convert it into XP, which only can be used on any vehicle. This also paired well with the premium tanks, which were maxed out on purchase, and they are purchasable tanks, gold tanks, that were rarely offered to free players through reward systems. These generate more credits than normal and generate that XP that can be converted instantly. I know this sounds like a lot, but these were the ways that wargaming made loads of money. They also added controversial black market. This was a neat concept in my opinion, and it would offer up random premium vehicles that were no longer in the shop, that had limited stock and would open at odd times of the day. It was always cool to see something different. Older tanks that I was used to seeing when I was first started playing, like the KV-5, and a few removed because they were broken, like the E25. These put urgency on players to buy now, think later, as they'll be gone forever. These were the three main ways of making money through microtransactions, but they also offer packages on their website for XP, crew XP, and credit boosters. And these were clearly very profitable, as in 2020 they surpassed World of Warcraft in microtransaction revenue of $327 million. Personally, I have always been a huge history nerd. Back in 6th grade, I did a presentation on history of World War II tanks, and I learned a lot of World War II after playing my first Call of Duty game, World at War, as well. Basically, it was a perfect storm for young monktard me, young cot dog, to get into World of Tanks. The grind was every day, as my friends and I would play this game for hours upon hours. You could platoon with up to 2 other players, so we would find out which tanks worked well together, and we had a ton of fun along the way. I'll remind you, however, this game was not for everyone. If you wanted to get a top tier tank, it took a long investment of your time to get there. and there are not many today that would sit down and play this game for hours like I have. The game is not very exciting, and even with all their new updates and graphical features, the pace of the game is slow, and its mechanics can be frustrating at times with all the nuance of armor angling, spaced armor, and the camouflage system, but it also can't just elaborate on the original premise of the game very well. There are special modes, clan battles, and other events, but the gameplay is still not fast-paced multiplayer like we are used to seeing in this era of games. The most notable one is Fortnite or COD or Apex Legends that require a large amount of focus, reflexes, and you can usually get in and out of games relatively quickly. And although the latter is true for World of Tanks, this game does not simply care much about your reflexes or your focus. Thus, many players moved on quite quickly because they got bored very quickly. I know I have taken numerous breaks from this game, and even recording this video I had to tell myself I have to play more to get more footage, even though I grew bored quite quickly. This decline has also been indicated on their servers, as in the United States servers were merged from East and West to a central one to preserve player count and keep good queue times. I am personally happy for this because I live in the buttfuck of Wisconsin, but, you know, for East and West Coasters, I'm sorry, life sucks, get a helmet. World of Tanks was made in a relatively new space for totally free multiplayer games. Its game loop was simple, but it was addicting for some, and free-to-play tag made it great for players to try out. The gameplay was slow, but it was nuanced. Players who played on the map many times knew where all the hot zones were, where good camo spots are for sniping, and micro movements like armor angling and weak points of tanks were the real draw for perfectionists to become the best in the lobby. Clan Wars were also a big feature and still are, with a world map that is divided into territories, and clans could fight over control of the land, which would generate gold that could be distributed to clan members for free. This showed that wargaming weren't 100% against free-to-play players, which is hard to say these days. Personally, I just like checking out the website map, especially when I was younger and I couldn't get those tier 10 tanks, and seeing which clans were planning assaults and which ones held the most territory. I've never been on a clan that won any of these battles, but in my later years, I ended up becoming a major tank gamer, and I thought these games were really fun. It was very competitive, and I'm a very competitive person, so it kind of filled that niche for me, but overall, it was a long grind to get there. I totally wish other games would also bring this Clan Wars game mode into their system, like Call of Duty did and Call of Duty Ghosts, and some other games as well. And it made it rewarding for World of Tanks players because it was engaging and gave us end goals for everyone if they so chose to play the game that long. World of Tanks also offered a lot of smaller calendar month events that would just be small challenges like get a kill or, you know, destroy someone's engine and you got some bonus rewards. And this gave us a bunch of free content for people that would either be returning the game or just people who are free to players. This was a great thing that they've done by offering so many free things for players to do. It didn't add a lot of content, but it did add a lot of bonuses for these free to play players that were grinding so hard. Alright, boys and girls and gremlins and goblins, we're going to get to the verdict now. World of Tanks does some very good things that other games should focus on replicating. Creating microtransactions that do not affect other players in a negative way in a game, i.e. premium tanks, premium accounts, and gold is a great idea. I've never been a fan, and I don't think anyone's ever been a fan of microtransactions, but this is probably the least egregious way of implementing it in your game. I think it's unfair to say that it was all Wargaming's fault for losing this player base. A shift in the gaming culture moved new eyes from seeing it, and the gameplay itself, not all that special. Wargaming did not do themselves any features by adding in so many premium tanks instead of new tech lines for players, as well as this cash grab black market system, which was just there for more revenue in opposed to the for the players mantra that the game claimed to be all about. The gameplay and its game modes are also lackluster, which led to a lack of different gameplay systems, which were only alleviated in one or two special events during the year, in which they created special game modes like soccer or special OBJ capturing systems like Capture the Flag. This all leads me to where we are today. A titan of the game turned into a shell of its former self, with its steady decline in player count and its updates. And it's really a shame to be talking about this now because I thought this game would be super successful for years to come, and there'll still be players playing it even 10 years from now. We all know what a game like this could have been. It could have been the next Fortnite, but because of its gameplay system and how slow paced it was, it just didn't meet everyone's eyes. And personally, this game means a lot to me, so I'm happy to make this video, and it gave me a reason to play the game again. And someone who's stuck into the devil's armpit ass cheeks that is Dota 2, I'm very happy to switch it up a little bit and play a game like this, where I can turn something on in the background, like Skip talking about a stupid Cowboys and Undisputed.
Now here's the second part, almost 4 years later, and one of the most recent videos on the channel as well. Almost 4 years ago, the consensus was simple. World of Tanks was dying. Monotonous corridor maps, aggressive gold shell spam, punishing new player onboarding, and an economy designed to bleed you dry. The core diagnosis was that Wargaming was burning through its player base to appease high-spending spenders. Then came Update 2.0, Wargaming's biggest update in franchise history, promised to change everything. 16 Tier 11 tanks, dynamic maps, a global rebalance with over 350 vehicles, and core quality of life changes we've been begging for since that 2015 era. So, did Wargaming actually fix the game? Or did they just change how it's broken? Today, we're going to look at what got better, what got significantly worse, and whether World of Tanks can ever regain that massive player base it once had, later from the last video. Let's start where credit is due. For years, playing World of Tanks felt like being penalized for just accepting to play. But recent updates, culminating in that 2.0 one I mentioned earlier, finally dismantled some of the most outdated friction points in the free-to-play history. Remember playing without 6 cents? Remember buying a new tank and being forced to play it with 50% or 75% crew that couldn't hit the side of a barn? That nightmare is finally gone. 100% crew efficiency is now default. Every single commander gets 6 cents automatically, and the perk system actually feels distinct and tailored to different playstyles. Along with the crew fixes, stock tanks aren't complete dead weight anymore. Modules and stock gun configurations received across the board handling buffs, making the climb up tech trees far less miserable. In match-to-match combat, Updates 2.0 massive rebalance brought back role identity. For a long time, armor felt useless against universal gold spam. Now, heavy tanks actually feel heavy again. Side scraping, hull down positioning, and armor angling actually matter, and giving distinct tank roles back some of the purpose. This is something from the French to the Polish and a lot of other groups that started lacking that later in the back half of that 2022 kind of time frame to where they definitely brought that back. Dynamic map events now shake up stacked corridor positions mid-game as well, forcing teams to adapt. Meanwhile, the Battle Pass system gives non-paying players a steady stream of free blueprints, bounty equipment, and premium time just for playing. Even gold pricing for premium tanks has been adjusted to match their tier value. And then there's tier 11 tanks. Love them or hate them, tanks like the Tesseract introduce active mechanics like secondary weapon systems, speed boosts, and heat charges. That added a new tactical layer to high tier play without turning the game into a cartoon. If the gameplay in Update 2.0 got better, the game's economy got undeniably worse. Wargaming cleared out old mechanics not out of generosity, but to make room for far more aggressive monetization. Welcome to the era of Tank as a Service. Between premium time and expansion of the World of Tanks Plus into core and pro tiers, keeping your account running at peak efficiency can cost up to $240 US, $20 a month to play the game how Wargaming wants you to play it. Combine that with weekly store rotations and limited time black market events, and the game relies heavily on pressure tactics to force purchases out of fear of missing out. It's definitely a FOMO manufacturing and something that I had brought up in a previous video, but now it's even worse. Don't believe it? Try playing a standard tank like I was in this video, the Pershing tier 9 tank, without a premium count or credit boosters. I did this as much as a free-to-play player can. I know I have gold, I can buy premium, I can buy the Watt Plus, but I wanted to show you guys what that would look like. Even if you play well, like this game, I got 2 kills, I had a fire for a fact, I got a master class second, I was the second highest in XP on my team, and we won. There's still high ammo costs, repair fees, and consumable prices that you're being penalized for with net credits. This singular game got me a little over 2,000 credits. Mind you, a tier 11 tank is somewhere in the 7 millions. So not quite a great look there from Wargaming for sure. And tier 11 reveals Wargaming's true target audience. Unlocking a tier 11 tank requires 325,000 XP and 7.4 million credits. But there's the trap. At launch, many tier 11 tanks feel worse or more sluggish than their tier 10 predecessors. They've definitely changed this a bit, but it's still a huge grind. To make them competitively viable, you have to grind an additional 350,000 XP, and I did the math on a calculator while doing research for this video, through a 25 node upgrade tree. It's a manufacturer grind designed to drain free XP reserves and incentivize credit conversions. It's abundantly clear who Wargaming is designing this game for, which is those whales you were mentioning earlier. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you have a tier 11 tank that costs 700,000 plus XP, as well as 7 million credits, not for you to be able to use in a clan battle, but to simply max it out. Which brings us to the ultimate question I kind of wanted to make the whole video on. Can World of Tanks ever regain its player base and thrive like it once did? Realistically, no. The game landscape in 2026 is vastly different than from its golden age back in 2015, when you had millions of casual players piling into low-tier battles and is gone. A decade of monetization makes the broad audience recovery almost impossible. But here's the catch. World of Tanks doesn't need 2015 numbers to thrive. It holds an absolute monopoly over the tactical arcade shooter genre. War Thunder, as much as it does have a lot of the similar tanks, it is a completely different game. It's more of a military simulation, and nobody does arcade vehicular combat like World of Tanks and Wargaming. If Wargaming wants to preserve this game for another decade, the roadmap is very clear. They have to tone down mobile-style UI clutter and give veteran players back direct data and visibility. They need to ease the credit deficit at the tier 8s, tier 10s, tier 9s, so free-to-play players aren't priced out of playing high-tier matches. And they also need to keep expanding casual, low-stress modes like Frontline and Steel Hunter, where players can enjoy the combat without burning through millions of credits. If you guys are not aware, game modes like Frontline, it was like a 30v30 big team kind of ground war-esque battle, and it was something that was very casual, not meant to be taken super seriously, but it always answered the question of what happens if there's 30 tanks versus 30 tanks on a grand scale. To tell you the truth, World of Tanks isn't dying anymore. It has evolved into a high-cost, high-reward niche titan. The Update 2.0 proved that Wargaming can still craft incredible core combat, but its long-term future depends on whether they remember the non-paying players are the lifeblood of their ecosystem. What about you guys? Did Update 2.0 and kind of just age of the game, has it brought you back to the garage? Or did the tier 11 grind and the subscription costs convince you to uninstall for good? That video has already amassed over 10,000 views. I am so grateful and appreciative. Up next is a video I thought would maybe get a lot more views as well, but is still around the mid-hundreds. So, this is my take on the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer that came out a couple years ago.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 has been out for nearly 2 weeks, and I finally was able to digest everything that they did well and what they have done poorly. That being said, we'll be looking at everything from camos to progression to maps and everything in between. I'll have times bookmarked below, so if you aren't interested in a certain section, you can just skip it. Again, thanks so much for clicking on the video, and if you liked my content, make sure to subscribe, and maybe tomorrow I won't eat Fruity Pebbles out of a coffee mug since I have no balls. I'm not going to beat up a dead horse here because it's straight buns. We all know it. Again, Hulu and the Disney Devils incepted this demonic creation to oppress us gamers from easily seeing one another online. There was clearly not a lot of thought here with their menu and lobby optimization organization. And there is another issue with attachments in the UI not being easily visible to see what level you need to get your gun to in order to unlock it or something else. But I'll get more into that when we reach the gunsmith. And my final point, and I know it's not really UI, but do we really need our characters all animated doing our basic animations in a lobby? It adds so little to the game, and I would rather just see call signs and emblems. If someone wanted to see their character, they would simply hover over you and look at it like they did in Ghost. I feel like this is a much better system, and the current system just makes my game lag out the ass, and I have a fucking NASA computer for a gaming setup. It's another year of this operator choosing that I know they'll add more to. But come on, man. These operators are committing acts of terrorism to my eyes, and everyone looks the damn same. I have a bigger issue in games at seeing enemies that are too hard to distinguish due to all these characters having very few distinguishing features and just a lack of a red dot until they updated it. But still, it's very hard to distinguish certain characters. I think it's cool that we can choose our own character with more player expression, but it falls short in the end.
call signs and emblems make a return once again, in the most underwhelming way possible. They seem to be shrinking in visibility as the games have been progressing, and in COD's latest installment, you barely even notice them. I mean, come on. You can't see them when someone calls in a streak. There isn't a list of visible objectives for challenges to get calling cards. I swear they have more pride emblems than actual ones, and I swear to God, if you say the campaign gives you some, I'm gonna flip my gourd. A gourd is like one of those vegetable things that are like at Thanksgiving, along with your racist uncle and SJW aunt. Both the call sign and the emblem are staples in COD multiplayers, and I'm sad to see them have less of an integration than in past games. Hopefully they'll change this, but it's one of many missed opportunities for the game. When it comes to loadouts and choices in this game, I'm happy to say that there are a ton of different guns to play around with in the game. Similar to Modern Warfare 2009, everything is pretty strong in this game. Unlike Modern Warfare 2019, the game has a large amount of viable, quick-killing guns, which I'm really happy about. This makes the experience more enjoyable for not only sweat lowers, but myself included. The progression system, as I voiced in a previous video, is divisive because it only allows you to stick towards a certain line to get certain guns. Getting certain attachments or guns can be frustrating, but I have since enjoyed playing different guns. Not that I am happy about working down different lines or different types of guns, but definitely spices up the gameplay. Not saying I wouldn't mind going back to the old version of just raw leveling up my account and the gun levels to unlock certain attachments and guns, but it's not that bad, and we've got what we asked for, and I can't be happier with this aspect of the game. Let's talk about Gunsmith real quick, because I'm torn on this freaking choose your own adventure attachment system. On one hand, it allows every player to create their own favorite builds. You and I can make the most goofy, looking firearm the world has ever seen. There's practically infinite freedom with all the different attachments and the newly added gun tuning, which turned into a nice surprise when I finally maxed out a gun. The downside is that they're clearly a best combo for every gun. I'm not upset when something is stronger than everything else, but with the prevalence on TikTok and YouTube guides, there are always those videos that'll be this build is overpowered, and some COD goblin will say, man, this gun will solve all your problems in game so you can go focus on wondering why your parents got divorced or something like that. Overall, minor gripes, minor problems. With a pretty fleshed out system, it's nice to play. If the gunsmith system is Kevin Spacey, the perk system is like Kevin Spacey after he found out he touched kids.
Advanced warfare.
What I mean by that is, why the hell don't I have all my perks at the start of the game? I was really hoping that they were going to bring back pro perks like they did back in the dinosaur days, and I hate the fact that I have to play the game for a while before I even get all my perks, like Cold Blooded and Ghost. Along with the footsteps being loud as hell, Ghost is the only perk that'll somewhat conceal you. This is coming from a stealth goblin class gamer, so take it as you will, but I'm kind of sad that it takes forever to get your ultimate perk. Even saying that sounds cringe. Not a fan of the perk system, especially since we have seen much better ones in different games. It's definitely the most disappointing part in the create a class system. Not much to say here. Some of them are stronger than others, and all the grenades are solid. The breaching charge grenade is clearly the best one for most objective-based matches, but all of them seem viable. And why the fuck are throwing knives locked in the late level 50s? It feels like a sin. It honestly does. Philip Graves are back, and they seem a bit better now. They're kind of like a mini kill streak with some of them, and classics like portable radar and camera are back and are fun and actually not that bad. But why don't they make Dead Silence a perk again? This makes me very angry. Finally, before we talk about the maps and movement, I want to take a quick shout out to our boy, the score streaks / kill streaks. Now, they have a lot of kill streaks in this game, quite a bit. I'm very happy about that because there was kind of a lack of diversity in some of the kill streaks in Modern Warfare 2019. So I'm really happy they kind of came back at it, double-fisted it with a ton of new kill streaks. The recon drone RCXD thing is pretty epic. And the fact that you can change it from kill streaks to score streaks makes people not complain because either they're objective goblins or they're running around sitting in corners and camping. Well, either way, you can still get your kill streaks, which I think is an amazing change to the game. The maps may be the most important thing in multiplayer in any COD game, and I'm happy to say that this one's not as bad as past CODs. There are a couple stinkers. I'm looking at you, Turok and Santa Border. I don't give a fuck who you are. I hate you. But I cannot complain with the maps altogether. Al Bagra, for example, somehow reminds me of a Black Ops 1 map, Hanoi. I don't know why I'm choosing the most difficult maps to pronounce, and I'm just saying this on the spot, but I don't know why I'm doing this, but I am.
due to its various camping locations and its hot zones. So that was the finish to my thought, apparently. The feeling of these maps have a solid flow, and although the spawn system is well far from perfect, it's still in a good place. People move around slower, thank God, and slight canceling out of the game, thank God, part 2. This naturally slows down twitchy movements and gives the more casual boomer like myself the chance to compete. Reload canceling is out of the game as well, for better or for worse, and now there's dolphin diving, I guess. Jump and drop shotting feels solid without being overly abusive and feels like old COD again. Kill times are fast too, which can be frustrating, but again, the guns are all competitive, which is cool. The lackluster launch is pitiful, with no hardcore mode in the game, along with some of our fan favorite game modes like Demolition and Capture the Flag. This is really disappointing, and I really hope that they start adding some of these game modes soon. Hopefully this game can get resurrected with the first season, and many new things will be added, like competitive play. And I'm tired of dealing with these TTV chimps because I accidentally go positive on one of my games. Quick side note, skill-based matchmaking is still in the game, and I still definitely hate it, and I definitely still feel it. That being said, it's not as strong as it was in Cold War and Modern Warfare 2019 at launch, and although I'm not happy with skill-based matchmaking altogether, it feels a little bit lower than it feels a little less heinous than what it used to be. In the end, we waited and wished for it to be like the past, and in some ways, it certainly is. Guns are strong, maps are solid, and customization is big. That being said, it has some shortcomings that'll hopefully be fixed in the near future. The game looks bright. I'm excited. You guys subscribe. End of story. Bye-bye. See you later.
One of my favorite edits of the whole damn show. What a great old video. One of my earlier edits for sure. You can definitely see some age there. Anyways, next one is our final green screen video here for today's presentation. Again, had a lot of fun with these as well. Took a long time to edit, so please enjoy.
We're back again. The year is 2013. Talking fruit was acceptable. Filthy Frank was just doing the Harlem Shake, and we found out what the Fox really said. Well, let's not forget that they released Rust, a multiplayer-only survival zombie game that kind of took the world by storm, okay? Hey guys. Look what the cat dragged in. I didn't even know she was here. Rust mostly played like ass, and it just felt like the combat just felt really bad. Like it was very laggy, unfinished product. The mic sounded like shit. There wasn't a ton to do in the game. Yet here we are, going on 9 years, and the game is still up and running. And don't get me wrong, it's way better than what it was when it was released. But what was the constant? What was the factor that made the game fun? Spoiler alert, it's you. Like I said, the zombie survival game that we had it wasn't the best, okay? There was a lackluster amount of content, the engine was really bad, there was an unrateable base in the alpha build for the entirety of the alpha build, and overall, the combat system was very, very laggy and pitchy. It's kind of like how PUBG is today, so in some regards, it's ahead of its time. And the original premise of the game, which was the zombie loot survival game, kind of like DayZ clone, really completely changed. Practically overnight. But here we are, just like a relapsing alcoholic, coming back for more Rust every single day, every single wipe. And we really wonder what it's all about, because we always get into this game and we have bullets that literally hit the target but don't do any damage, and we have exploit, and there's just so many issues we like to complain about. But why does the game suck? Or why doesn't it suck? Rust as a game is aight, okay? Rust as a game is aight, okay? There's definitely some problems with the game, and it's really grindy. Vanilla is practically unplayable if you're just a casual player who wants to get into the late game. Modded servers are more and more abundant every day because people understand that there are some problems with the game. Well, and the game itself, the PvE, is closer to Minecraft than it is to the forest in terms of survival. But the player base, or more importantly, the you and me's, the X factor, I would say, is the reason why the game has stayed alive and stayed very relevant and very fun to every group of audience. And you know why I call it the X factor? Because you never know what the fuck we are doing, okay? I mean, I could just explain a beach side, right? So you see some guys with bows just shooting at one another. You have someone jumping off the lighthouse to commit sewer slide. You have some guys on the roof just shooting at everybody nearby in their big towering oasis base. Jesus, hard for me to say. You have some naked harvesting some other naked for animal fat that's sleeping on the beach. The possibilities are virtually endless, and this is just a plain scene. Let me paint you a picture of it without any of the players, and you have a relaxing beach. And don't get me wrong, it's cool and all to have, you know, a beach in a video game. The amount of action that can spawn via the player is the reason why Rust multiplayer only has worked for so long. It's the same scenario as if you would have a city full of people completely disappear, and then there's no action, there's no excitement, nothing is happening. I feel like that's a plot to a movie. The other beautiful aspect to Rust, which I've always been a huge fan of whenever I'm playing any video game whatsoever, is the abundance of freedom that the game provides. The only objective that you need to do is survive in the game. Now, hypothetically, survive is a very broad word. In terms of the game, how many times that I die in a single wipe, surviving is pretty damn hard, as you have to figure out what you want to do. So the objective of only surviving is hard enough, but you have an astounding amount of playstyles you can choose to succeed in your one goal. Some people might be hunting miners. Some people are hunting farmers. Some people are just camping recycling bins at towns, and that's how they succeed. Some people just dominate in every PvP fight ever, which happens to always be against me. But you know, that's how they win.
Emotional, damn it!
If you wanna mine rocks for 4 hours and listen to Squid Game ASMR, you can. If you wanna kill those stinky scientists, you can. Or the tunnel rat, or looting barrels on the side of the road or right outside rocket launch site. I almost said Rocket League. What did I say? If you want to have a peaceful village and live by the river with some of your friendlies, and you see some nakeds going by, hand them some food, you hand them a spear and say, go get your food. You can't. Fuck you. I'm murdering every one of you. You gotta have scrap somewhere, right? The point of this video is that you and I both make the game. It's fun. I mean, every Spoon Kid or Frost video you've ever seen, if you have seen them, I recommend you check them out. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and I mean that not dramatic.
So I was being just a little bit dramatic in this part, but I will say that Rust content is the most entertaining content I've ever watched when it comes to gaming. And that's no cap, Blatt.
Literally in the sense of, it's entertaining every time you watch it because something new is always happening. And you may see, yeah, I've seen a million videos about someone counter-raiding a base, or I've seen a million videos of base tutorials. The point I'm trying to make is that it's always different when you have your own experience, and every experience is different, which is what makes a multiplayer game like this work for a long period of time. It begs the question, are these even scripted? Because some wild shit happens every time. Sometimes they are, but we like to forget about that sometimes. Entertainment of the content that Rust YouTubers are making, it's like movie-like. It's every single video that I've seen of Frost is entertaining, and Spoon Kid just has some of the most hilarious shit ever happen to him, and there's all these smaller YouTubers I'm not naming, but I've seen their content all the time. All I'm saying is that the player base and the amount of freedom that you're given helps create this universe of endless possibilities, and every single time you want to bash your skull in with the rock you keep respawning with on the beach because those fuckers don't stop shooting you, or you're tilted because you got killed by a hacker 300 meters away when you're right outside your base, just depoting loot from a gas station, or some guy calls you words that you've only heard on 12 Years a Slave, or you get killed by Bradley, and then you get countered right after killing Bradley. So did you really even do Bradley? Which is complete bullshit, by the way. I fucking hate anyone who does that. I will hunt you down. You just gotta remember this. At least we're not Overwatch.
What would this channel be if it was an Overwatch channel? A channel I would not want to be on. Final video for today is Call of Duty World at War Vendetta, one of my favorite missions of all time. Made a whole video about it. Fun fact, I did also use Google Ads one time for this video, and it got 5 views. So, enjoy. Last time I talked about a really good campaign mission, I was talking about Titanfall 2's mission Into the Abyss, where I talked about the verticality of the game and the amount of different freedoms you had within the campaign mission. In this episode of In-Depth Look, we're going to be taking a look at Call of Duty series, specifically World at War's Vendetta mission. It is probably my favorite sniping mission of all time, maybe up to the Modern Warfare par, Might make a separate video on that, but for now, we're just going to talk about this game specifically. This mission has so much uniqueness to it, as it was a great change up from the shooter linear playstyle they have. You don't have any freedom in this campaign mission per se, but it is definitely one to remember. And it's basically the score, the effects, and the overall gameplay that carries this. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it. If that isn't one moving intro sequence, I don't know what is. You are playing as a Private Petrenko. After finally moving away from the German soldier, you start crawling in the pool of blood that is of your brothers. You find one other man alive.
I need your help. The injured hand means I can no longer aim. But you will do it for me. Take my rifle and watch the road. No more backing.
Just so I'm clarifying, I'm breaking down this intro sequence because Sergeant Reznov, the other man alive, is a sniper. He gives you his sniper rifle to hunt down the Germans because he lost his freaking finger. Part of his finger is just blown off. He can no longer aim, and he needs you to kill the Germans. There's a really cool intro scene where you're first reloading, and he talks about hunting prey.
Sniping your enemy is like hunting any other animal. Fire at the wrong moment and your chance will be forever lost. Patience. If we reveal our position to Hamsel's men, this fountain will be our grave.
And he talks about who the main target is. It's an officer for the German army.
Wait until the bombers are directly overhead. The sound of their engines will drown out your shot.
And the first time you're actually able to interact with anything is when the officer is out of sight and he's able to give you ammo to reload. Once you reload the ammunition, you wait until the bombers fly by with their loud engines to take shots at the German soldiers to get out of the fountain. This is a very interesting scene, and I didn't understand it the first times I went through when I first played this game when I was 12, but it was mostly because I didn't understand why we had to not start shooting. It's a game about patience, and although it wasn't that complex to understand when you're older, you know, as a kid, this was really cool. And the gameplay change up from the mission before is where you're a Marine running around in the jungle, so it's a nice change of pace. You spend the next few minutes avoiding combat altogether.
Patrol. We must find another route to Amsterdam.
You also spend a couple minutes reflecting on how much damage the Germans actually did to the city of Stalingrad, and you really do have a weird pace.
For days, I have crept through shadows like a rat. This place once echoed with conversations of friends and lovers. No longer.
You're used to always just shooting at enemies and instead not reflecting about what's around you, which is a really nice environment change up that we're not used to seeing in COD games nowadays.
To their people. To their blood. We can use this building to flank his route.
Until a sniper spots you, and that's where you have to quickly dive into cover into a bar. And this is probably my favorite part about the entire mission, is when you're able to have a sniping battle with a German sniper. This is one of those memorable things because one Sergeant Reznov is trying to draw the fire while you take shots back at him. This is a really fun scene, and it only gives you a couple of times to take shots at him before you fail the missions.
We need to get moving.
After out sniping the enemy sniper, you then go into another room. This is where it starts to get a little fishy because they have heard you shoot. They start investigating local areas nearby, and you do end up running into German trouble.
Take the shot, Dimitri. Shh. German patrol. Let them pass.
They found us! We need to leave now! Hit the floor! They are trying to burn us out! Stay low! Try not to breathe!
This is where it looks like it's the end,
And this is also a really memorable scene because I remember all the times where Reznov saves me.
Here, my friend. Take my hand. I need you alive. Armored car outside.
As you are fading in and out of life and death, things are looking grim. The German soldiers do catch up to you and they're about to burn you to crisp until some comrades help you out.
We thought you were among the dead in the massacre at the square. He was. Among them, but not one of them.
We're about to assault the communication post north of here.
Good. Such a move will prevent the German command calling for help. Dmitri and I will provide cover from above. Wait till you hear the screams of dying Germans.
Once you start helping out the Russian squad, it does start to feel more like a COD game and less like a sniping game, and this is where it starts to be more familiar to the player about just shooting enemies. I will say this is also more fun because although it is like all the other normal COD missions, this one also has verticality in it with over 3 levels of different soldiers as well as shooting at flamethrower guys, which create explosions which you can use to your advantage. After sniping for a bit, you do end up doing your classic Call of Duty trademark mounted machine gun part of the campaign mission where you just mow down a ton of Germans. This is also just dumb fun that I just wanted to put in there. After fighting in a few more close quarter situations, you are then tasked with finishing off the commander. And this is where you have to let your allied soldiers who saved you before to die. This is actually kind of conflicting, but you have to make it worth their while by killing the commander, and this scene is actually hella stressful. You are timed with a guy moving from cover to cover from a far distance with plenty of guards around him, and you only have a few shots. Fortunately, I did take it on the first try, and I did get it on the second shot. And then you end up running into a bunch of guards, and you run and jump out of the hole in the wall into the river.
Into the river, Dmitri. It is our only chance. Go!
Now I thought we died there, but you don't actually die. A couple of years later, you end up resuming the campaign mission where it last left off, and the famous phrase is repeated.
Now it is their land, their people, their blood.
I know this is also specifically to the game as a whole, but these cutscenes in between missions are absolutely insane. I love these so much because they gave real World War II footage that we, as a kid, you don't really see any of that yet. So I really did appreciate the historical value behind it. Anyways, guys, that is just an in-depth look at one of my favorite COD missions of all time. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
There, we will ensure that
Thank you for watching our presentation here today. These are just some of our hand-picked video essays from a wide variety on our channel, as well as a lot of other goofs and gaffs and other funny videos. So please, take a look at our channel if you have time. Hit a like and subscribe. Took me some time to edit all these together here. So again, take care.